Hey you, thanks for stopping by. The day's done, so let's settle in and make ourselves comfortable. I brought a few stories to share. The half-filled drawer. There's a drawer in the kitchen that's always half full. Not empty, never that, but just enough to feel like someone meant to come back. A rolling pin with no partner. A lonely lemon zester. 3 cloth napkins that don't match. You open it slowly, expecting clutter, but it breathes instead. Everything inside shifts just slightly when the drawer moves, like it was asleep. It smells faintly of flour and citrus, like a recipe that drifted away mid-thought. You close it again, gently, so as not to disturb whatever is still remembering. The tea left to cool. There's a cup on the windowsill, not forgotten, just waiting. Steam no longer rises, but it still smells like jasmine and milk. The sun hits it a certain way in the afternoon, and you almost see that swirl again. Not quite. The warmth lives on in the way the wood beneath it sighs, expanded just enough to remember being warm. You consider sipping. You don't. Somehow, it feels like the tea belongs to the room now. The umbrella in the bathtub. The umbrella is open in the tub, which seems like a mistake, but it's clean and dry and very sure of itself. A little silver button on the handle gleams in the light. It looks like it's catching rain that isn't there, like it's indoors on purpose. Sometimes you sit on the edge of the tub and watch it, half expecting thunder. Nothing comes, just the umbrella, gently leaning, as if enjoying the view. The rock with a patch of moss, smooth and low to the ground, almost level with the dirt. The moss spreads in one corner, pale green, dusted, uneven at the edge. It wasn't planted, it wasn't planned, it just arrived and stayed. The rock doesn't move, it isn't warm, it isn't cold. It just casts a short shadow at noon and none in the evening. Sometimes a leaf lands on it, sometimes not. The moss doesn't change quickly, not enough to watch. It's just enough to be different in a year, maybe 2. No one checks, but it keeps growing, slowly, a little unevenly, as if there's plenty of time. The berry bush that no one picks from, not fenced, not wild, just growing in the edge space between 2 things. The berries don't ripen all at once. Some fall before they're eaten, others stay and wither. Birds might pass through, might not. The stems are thin, angled outwards. The leaves curl a little in the heat. Rain doesn't change much. The berries grow, then don't. The bush doesn't care. It continues either way. Nothing is expected from it, and that's what makes it keep going. Quiet, small, untrimmed, but still rooted. The stream that changes sound after rain. On dry days, it clicks and skips, barely a trickle over stone. Enough to move, not enough to echo, but after rain, the pitch deepens. It carries more. The path doesn't change, just the volume. The water isn't faster, just broader. It touches things as it usually passes. Then slowly, over hours, it lowers again, shrinks back, returns to the small sound, Both versions belong, neither stay, but the stream always continues. The field where the grass leans one way, not from wind, not from mowing, just the slope of the ground and how the light falls. The grass grows tall, but not evenly. The blades on one side lean south, only slightly, enough to make the pattern visible at a distance. Up close, it's just grass. The color is pale near the base, deeper near the tips. It shifts a little when walked through, but it returns. The direction stays, not because it's told to, just because nothing interrupts it. The stalk of goldenrod blending towards the fence. It's taller than the rest, just one stem leaning slightly forward. The others stay upright. The yellow is faded at the tip, brighter in the middle. It doesn't lean enough to fall, just enough to rest against the wire. The fence doesn't shift. The stalk doesn't press. The contact is light, brief, but constant. A shared edge between two things. The wind moves through both, then leaves, and the flower bends a little farther each week, then not at all. The stone near the top of the mountain that hasn't fallen. It rests near the edge, not sharp, not loose, flat on one side, balanced with no effort. Other stones around it have tumbled long ago, but this one hasn't. The mountain rises behind it, sheer and jagged. Below, the slope falls away without interruption. The stone doesn't lean, doesn't wobble. It doesn't wait for gravity. It simply stays where it landed or where it formed. The wind brushes past without moving anything. Snow melts on its surface, then dries. Rain pulls briefly in the shallow dent, then slips off. It doesn't shelter, doesn't mark anything, but from a certain angle it blocks the horizon, only briefly, and then the sky continues. The pool in the forest that doesn't flow, fed by a trickle, maybe from underground, maybe from rain that fell days ago. The water never leaves it, not by force, just by disappearing slowly. It reflects the sky when trees allow it. Insects land there, sometimes rest. Nothing big drinks from it. The edge is lined with moss that never dries. There's no sound, no movement, not even from the wind. The pool doesn't shrink quickly, doesn't grow quickly. It's almost always the same. A surface without urgency, a depth that can't be measured without effort. But no one tries. The water stays, not because it's held, but because it's forgotten. The strip of grass between the sidewalk and the street. It's narrow, not landscaped, not wild. Grass grows in a straight line, except where it doesn't. Sometimes dandelions appear, sometimes nothing does. The soil is compact, dry near the edge. The curb dips slightly. Cars park with their tires close, but not touching. Feet step across it without looking down. It doesn't need watering. It doesn't need anything. The strip stays green longer than expected and browns quietly when it doesn't. One corner has a patch where nothing grows, not bare, just thinner. The space isn't owned, but it's not ignored either. If it were paved over, no one would complain. If it stayed forever, no one would tend it. It just exists, a break between places, a bit of ground that never asks for more than it already has. The fence wire that's no longer taut. It runs from one post to another, stretched once long ago. Now it sags in the center, not broken, not sharp, just slack. The twist still holds. The staples are still there. The post on the left leans just a little. That might be why. Or it might have always done this. Wind moves the grass beneath it. The wire moves a little less. It hums sometimes, but never loud. The rust is even. Nothing snags it. Nothing leans. It doesn't separate anything now. Just marks a line. One of many. A path no one takes, but the wire stays. Not pulled, not reset, not noticed. Just enough tension to keep shape. Not enough to do anything else. The shade from the empty tool shed. The roof stretches just past the walls, not far, just enough to cast a line of shade. It falls on a narrow strip of dirt, not cool, but dim. The sun moves across it daily, and the shade follows, then fades. The dirt there stays drier, harder. The grass pulls back from it. Nothing grows in the exact line. The wall behind it is blank. The shed, it doesn't open often. Sometimes the door swells in the summer, but that doesn't change the shade. It just stays until the sun leaves, then disappears and returns again. Nothing waits on it. Nothing depends on it. The ground just cools slightly for a while and then not. The tree that casts the same shadow every year. It stands just outside the fence line. Thin trunk, broad branches. The bark doesn't peel. The roots don't rise. Every afternoon, the shadow falls across the same patch of ground. The shape changes, but the reach is the same. It touches the corner of the shed, then the water trough, then fades. Every year, every season, the leaves change, the light changes, the ground doesn't remember, but the tree still stands, still lifts the same arms to catch the sun, not because it needs to, just because that's what it always does. It was planted once, or maybe it grew on its own. Either way, it stayed. The water pump that doesn't work anymore. Cast iron, bolted to a slab. The handle still moves, but nothing comes out. The spout is dry. The bolts are rusted, not broken, just sealed in place. The handle creaks once when lifted, then returns. The pump still looks ready, still balanced, still upright, but the well below has dried or been capped. No one drinks from it. No one tries. The base is surrounded by weeds that don't grow too tall. The earth there stays hard. The shape of the pump is familiar, iconic even, but no one explains it. No one remembers when it last worked. It doesn't need to. It stays where it is, not for water, not for use, just because it always has. The tarp over the stack of wood, folded once, then again, then fastened with rope along two sides. The other side lifts in the wind sometimes, not all the way, just enough to show what's underneath. Split logs, uneven, dry. The tarp is green but faded. The grommets along the edge are rusting. The wood doesn't move, doesn't shrink, doesn't rot. It's been under cover too long to spoil, too long to burn. The tarp never shifts far, always pulling back to itself. Rain pools in the low point, then spills, then pools again. No one tightens it, no one adds more rope. The pile just waits, or rests, or stays, covered by something, just doing its job. The empty hook in the mudroom. There's a row of them, but this one is bare. No jacket, no bag, just the shape of the hook itself. Curved, brushed metal, fastened into painted wood. It faces forward. It hasn't moved in a while. Dust gathers behind it, but not much. The ones nearby creak softly when used. This one doesn't. Sometimes things are hung there for a moment, then moved. It doesn't hold onto anything, but it's always ready. Quiet, clean, still part of the row, even if it isn't chosen. Some days, the light from the back door falls on it. Most days, it doesn't. The small patch of gravel beside the steps. Just to the right of the bottom step, there's a square of gravel. Maybe it was meant to catch water, or just to fill space. The stones are small and dull, mostly gray, some darker, a few lighter. They don't shift when walked on. They're too packed down for that now. A weed grows in one corner. No one pulls it. It doesn't grow fast. The border between the gravel and dirt is uneven, but no one smooths it. The gravel does its job by staying put. Rain lands softly. Nothing rolls. The stones don't shine. The clearing with no obvious shape. Not round, not square. Just open. Trees end without lining anything. Grass starts without fanfare. The ground dips slightly in one corner, rises again in another. Sunlight lands unevenly. It's not a meadow, not a field, just a place where trees decided not to continue. Nothing marks it, no fallen trunk, no worn soil. It isn't used, it isn't wild. Wind turns differently here, but not sharply. Shadows pass a little faster. The clearing doesn't collect water, doesn't hold sound. It ends where the forest begins again, without warning, without reason. It doesn't signal anything. It doesn't center anything. It's just space. Quiet, flat enough to stand in, forgettable enough to walk past. And that's all I have for tonight. The stories have come to an end, so I'll be on my way. Sleep well, and maybe we'll meet again tomorrow.